This conference will
Yesterday
now
we
be
were
recorded.
discussing regarding the P2P cycle. So we were discussing regarding the step number 5 of the P2P cycle. Right. So the step number 1 is create purchase requisitions. Then step number 2 is vendor selection process. Then we have step number 3, that is create various procurement documents. Then we have step number 4 as a follow-up activity or the monitoring activity. That is what we discussed during yesterday. Then we were also started with the step number 5. So the step number 5 is goods receipt process, right? So during the step number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it is just creating a document, like we created a purchase requisition, or we created a contract, or we created a order, etc. But these are just like some dummy documents which we have created and stored in the system. Whenever you create these documents, there is no finance or the any of the implications in the system. It is just you created a document and kept it ready to give it to the vendor, but there is no effect on any of the other module or the finance module, etc. Whenever you create a document like purchase order, a contract, a contract, or request for quotation, or purchase requisition, etc. But when you start doing a goods receipt process, so the integration between different modules will be coming into picture, right? So step number 5 is goods receipt process. Whenever you do a goods receipt process, the integration is coming into picture. So there will be SAP MM integration with SAP FI. So what is SAP MM and FI integration? But what is a goods receipt? Goods receipt is nothing but, let us say I created a order against a vendor. Vendor manufactured the materials against that particular order, and he delivered the materials against that particular order to my company premises. Then once the material received into my company, I will be unloading that particular material into the stores or the inventory management department, and I will be keeping those materials in the one of the place known as goods receipt zone, known as GR zone, or I will also be calling as a quality inspection zone, right? If somebody delivered the material to me, I need to verify those materials whether they are falling as per my quality standards or not. I will not blindly accept the material. So I will have a quality department, and quality department people will come and they will check the quality standards of those materials. Let us say I received 1,000 pieces of some motor, right, from the vendor. My quality department will come and they will cross check. Let us say out of 1,000, 950 are accepted, and they are as per the company's requirement. Then remaining 50 pieces are not as per my company requirements or the quality standards, so I will be rejecting them. So once the quality department done the quality analysis, we need to accept or reject by doing a goods receipt process within a SAP system in the materials management module. So whenever you do accept or reject and do a goods receipt against the quantity which you have received, then there will be integration coming into picture between SAP MM and FI module. You are doing the goods receipt in MM module, but parallelly the relevant financial postings also will happening. What are those financial postings? Let us say I have accepted 950 are okay. I did the goods receipt for 950 pieces and I accepted 950 pieces. Then there will be a finance and the integration coming into picture. What are those finance integrations? Like there will be a in the quantity update in the inventory management module for 950 pieces, right? In the inventory management module. Whenever I do a goods receipt, there will be a quantity update in the inventory management module. Parallelly, there will be also a value update in the in the finance module. Right? What is a quantity update? What is a value update? It is just like your bank, right? In your bank, today morning you have 1,000 rupees as a balance, right? Then you deposit it again 10,000 rupees. Then what will happen to your bank balance after you deposit 10,000 rupees? It will become 11,000 rupees, right? Which is nothing but in the same way in the inventory management also. Today morning I have 1,000 quantity of the motors available in my company. I received again 1,000 motors via a goods receipt process which I have done. Let us say I received 950 pieces. Then my stock in the inventory management module will be showing as 1950. This is nothing but a quantity update in the inventory management module. Then what is a finance or the value update? The finance or the value update is nothing but in my company today morning I have 1,000 pieces, right? Each piece let us say some 10 rupees. Then what is the total inventory value which I have for the motor? It is 10,000 rupees in the morning. Later I received 950 pieces. Let us say each piece is of again 100 rupees. Then what is the total value of the 950 pieces? It will be 9,50,000 rupees. Then if I see a finance books, right, in the finance books, I will see the total value of the motors got updated as 9 lakh 95,000. Okay, 95,000 plus 1 lakh 10,000 plus 95,000. It will be a 1 lakh 5,000. So like this, the continuously whenever you do a goods receipt or whenever you issue a material from the stock to a production department, then the financial postings are adjusting accordingly. I received 950 pieces, each piece is 100 rupees. So the my inventory in the finance will increase to 1 lakh 5,000 rupees. I have issued 10,000 pieces to a production department for the production usage. Then my value of the inventory, my value of the material at the finance side will decrease for again for 95,000. Why? Because I have consumed the 1,000 pieces in the production processes, so my inventory will get decreased. It is like you have withdrawn the money from the bank, then your bank balance will decrease, right? In the same way, if I have consumed some quantity of the motors in the production processes, again at the finance side I will see the decrease in the value of the motors. So like that, there will be a quantity update and the value update, which is nothing but a materials management and the financial integration will be coming into picture whenever you process a goods receipt in the SAP materials management module. So this is one of the very important step in the P2P cycle. So then what is the step number 6? So I received 950 pieces which got accepted by my quality department. Each piece is let us say 100 rupees. So I am liable to make a payment of 95,000 rupees to the vendor who supplied this particular material, right? So if you want to make a payment to the vendor, you need to process one thing known as invoice verification process, right? So the step number 6 in the P2P cycle is invoice verification process. So what is invoice verification process? Invoice verification process is nothing but vendor gave you a invoice. He delivered 1,000 pieces, right? When he delivering the 1,000 pieces, he will also raise a invoice manually. That invoice copy will be coming to your finance department, right? Normally finance department will be doing the invoice verification. Let us say vendor gave you a invoice for 1,000 pieces. Let us say in the invoice he mentioned per piece is he is charging per piece 100 rupees. Then what is the total invoice value that is being presented by him? It is 1 lakh rupees. But your quality department accepted only 950 pieces, right? So you will be making the payment for 950 pieces. But as per your purchase order, per piece you agreed with the vendor at the rate of, let us say, 95 rupees only. Then what will be the value as per your invoice, as per your purchase order? 95 multiplied by 90, 950. Let me check. 950 multiplied by 95. So 90250. Right? As per you agreed at the rate of 95 rupees only, but he charged 100 rupees. Right? So as per him, you are accepting only 950 pieces, right? 950 into 100, you need to pay an amount of 90 95,000, right? As per him, you need to pay 95,000. Why? Because you accepted only 950 pieces. Each piece he is supplying at the rate of 100 rupees. That is what he mentioned in the invoice. As per him, you need to make the payment 95,000 for the accepted quantity. But as you agreed, you need to make payment only 95 rupees. When I say 95, 950 multiplied by 950, 95, it will be 90250. So here there is a difference between the invoice raised by a vendor and the PO price which you agreed against the vendor to supply this particular motor. Right? Then, so here there is a discrepancy, right? He is saying I supplied at the rate of 100 rupees, but you are paying only 95. Here there is a discrepancy in processing the invoice. Then what you will do? Wherever there is a discrepancy, you need to sort it out by discussing with the vendor. You will call the vendor and you will inform to the vendor regarding the why there is a price difference of 5 rupees, that is the invoice being raised by the vendor. He will say, sir, we agreed with 95 rupees only, but later I tried to manufacture the material, then the raw material cost increased to 5 rupees again in the market. So that is the reason I have charged the invoice at the rate of 100 rupees. If you agree, whatever may be the clarification that he is trying to give, so you need to make the payment at the rate of 95,000 rupees. Or if you don't want to agree, whatever may be the clarification that he is trying to give, then you process the invoice at the rate of 95 rupees and make the payment. Make sure that the payment of 90250 rupees will be processed to the vendor. Right? So this is nothing but a invoice verification process. Invoice verification process will be done by a finance people mostly. So they will check so many things before making or processing a invoice against a vendor. Right, once the invoice verification is completed, let us say I processed the invoice for 9025 rupees, right? Then the step number 7 is payment run. I processed the invoice and as agreed with the vendor, if I process the invoice today, I will make the payment after 60 days. That is the agreement which I had with the vendor. Then after 60 days, there is one program known as a payment run in finance module, right? So that is the step number 7. Step number 7 is payment run or payment program execution. Payment run. So when a payment run program is executing after 60 days, right? What it will do, it will pick the invoice that is being due for the vendor to be paid, right? So it will process once the payment program is executed and the invoice is due, then an amount of 90250 rupees will be debited from the company's account, company bank account. Debit from company bank account, and an amount of 90250 will be credited to the vendor bank account. Or if you process for 95,000 will be debit from the company bank account and it will be credited to the vendor bank account. So whatever may be the 50 pieces which got rejected over here, you will be returning back to the vendor. Why? Because 50 pieces got rejected, so I don't want to use them in my company. I will simply return back those 50 pieces back to the vendor. So these particular steps from step number 1 to step number 7 will be called as a P2P cycle or procure to pay cycle, right? So in this particular cycle, the step number one is create purchase requisitions, right? Step number one is create purchase requisitions. Purchase requisition will be created by any person in the company or any department in the company who requires a material. Anybody can create who requires a material, right? So step number one, which is create purchase requisition. This step can be done by any department in the organization. Any department can create a requisition who requires a material. Then step number two, that is a vendor selection process. And step number three, create various procurement documents like contracts, purchase orders, or scheduling agreements, etc. Also, the follow up or the step number four, that is a monitoring of the procurement documents. These step number two, three, four will be done by a purchasing department. So, purchase department will do step number two, step number three, and step number four. Then, step number five, that is a goods receipt process. This will be done by a stores or the inventory management department. Store or inventory management department. Then step number six, that is invoice verification, and the step number seven, these two steps will be executed by a finance department. Right? So even though I am saying it is a P2P cycle, but in the real time, these and all the departments that are involved in executing this particular cycle. which will be called as a P2P cycle, right? So this cycle is the basis for the procurement activities or the SAP MM module, right? In SAP MM module, we have 18 to 20 different business scenarios, but the basic background of each and every scenario is a P2P cycle only. Every scenario will have these many steps, but there will be minor differences between a scenario to scenario in terms of executing the each and every business scenario. The 95% of the scenarios will have same steps, but here and there some scenarios will have different set of steps when you are executing a business scenario in SAP MM. So with this, we are now able to complete the P2P cycle. So if you have any doubts regarding the P2P cycle, we can discuss. If there is no doubts, we will continue with the next topic, that is known as organizational structure. Any doubts on P2P cycle? Right? Any doubts if you have on P2P cycle so that we can discuss. Otherwise, we will continue with the next topic known as organizational structure. Okay, so if there is no doubts, then we will go with the organizational structure.
Yeah, sir, 1 second. So, in the step 4 monitoring procurement document, monitoring can be done by manually, by I mean through email and in person and dunning process. So, what is the difference between manual and in person, sir? Like in person, like I can know by the terminology, the person will be discussing directly. But what is manual, sir?
Manual means you will call the vendor via a phone or via a email communication. Right? Those are the manual follow-up activities. In person means you will be directly visiting the vendor premises, right? So and you will sit in front of him. If the material is very urgent, he is not acting upon it. Whatever may be the order you have given, he is not acting upon it. He is not responding to your calls or mails. Then you will travel to his location and you will sit in front of him and ensure the materials are getting delivered within the delivery date that you have specified in the PO.
Okay.
So that is in person, yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay, yeah. So then we have, yes, tell me any doubts.
Sir, if the vendor sent any less quantity or more quantity, it is possible to change in the PO, sir. Suppose we
Yeah,
order
change
50
is
motors, he has sent
change.
51
Yeah,
motors.
yeah, always possible. The change is always possible. Or you have something known as tolerance limits. Let us say you ordered 1,000 pieces to a vendor, but it is not like that. Since you ordered 1,000, he has to deliver 1,000, right? So he may send 950, or he may send 1,100 also, right? So in such cases, there is something known as a tolerance limits. So based upon the tolerance limits, your system can accept. Let us say I will show it to you in the PO. Let us say I ordered 1,000 pieces, right? But there is something known as over delivery and under delivery tolerance. Every PO will have over delivery and under delivery tolerance specified in it. Let us say I ordered 1,000 pieces. I specified over delivery tolerance. Right? Whenever I am creating a PO, I will specify the tolerances. That is, one is over delivery tolerance. Let us say if I specified over delivery as 10 percentage, that means vendor can deliver up to 100 pieces extra. That means he can deliver 1100 as well. And only over delivery and under delivery tolerance. Let us say under delivery tolerance I mentioned as 10 percentage. That means vendor can deliver 100 pieces less. I ordered 1000 but he can deliver 900. In both the cases my system should be able to accept the quantity based upon the within the tolerance limits. I maintained over delivery 10 but vendor delivered 1500. That means he delivered 50% extra, which is not within the limits which I have specified. He delivered 500 only. Means my system can accept under delivery only 10 percentage, but he has delivered 500. That means he delivered 50 percentage less quantity. That means my system will not accept the quantity that he is delivered. Either you need to change the under delivery to 50 percentage and over delivery 50%, then accept, then system will accept. But if your under delivery and over delivery is 10 percentage and he is delivering 1500 or 500, then your system will not accept. So where we are going to maintain these things, over delivery and under delivery, and there is something known as unlimited delivery as well. Unlimited delivery and minimum delivery quantity, these are the some of the parameters, right? Unlimited delivery means you ordered for 1000 pieces, but if you activate unlimited delivery means vendor can deliver 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs as well. Why? Because you have selected unlimited delivery activation. Minimum delivery quantity, you order 1000, at least vendor should deliver 900 pieces as a minimum quantity. He cannot deliver 50 or 10 pieces when you specify minimum delivery as 900. So these are the some of the parameters which we are going to specify when you create a PO. Right, let me try to show it to you where we have these things. Right, so if I go to ME23N, so I'm trying to show it to you one of the existing PO. I think in the delivery tab, right here you see over delivery, under delivery, unlimited delivery, right? Also we have something known as minimum delivery quantity, that is also will be available. I think it is available under a vendor, right? If I select the vendor, let me see, you see here minimum order value, right? Minimum delivery quantity, somewhere it is available. Means if you order 1000 pieces, at least you should deliver 900. You cannot deliver 1050 or 10 pieces. So you need to have the minimum delivery quantity also specified for a particular vendor. So all those things are specified in the delivery tab of the delivery tab of the purchase order. Right. So any other doubts you have? Am I
Yeah,
able to clear
sir.
your doubt?
Yeah, as per any material requirement, what is a platform for vendor selection, sir? Like how we select the vendors and search for the vendors?
Search for the vendors is it's all depends upon market survey, right? Let us say I want to buy a oxygen, right? I will do the market survey. I will go to the market and I will verify who will be the vendor will be able to deliver the oxygen, or I will go through the Google,
Okay.
or I will go through some other medium, right? So like that I will be doing. There will be one section of people who will be doing only this activity. They will be finding out in the market who will be the relevant vendor will be able to deliver the materials. Once vendor identification is done, then we will select the vendor based upon the quality, cost, and delivery terms and conditions that a particular vendor is going to quote.
Okay, so basically our part comes in where the vendor selection come into picture from there.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other doubts? If somebody worked in purchasing department, then they know what is vendor selection, how they
Yeah,
will.
actually, even I have worked in a company, sir, where we used to search for the, like, depending upon our material. So we used to search through Google only. So that's what I thought. Like, is there any other medium?
Yeah, Google, or you will do the market survey, or since you are running the company, most of the vendor they themselves are coming back to you, right? They will say we will supply this material, we will supply that material, like that they will come to you. Based upon that also you can do the selection,
Okay.
or every company will maintain the vendor database. So based upon the database also they will search for the vendor who will be able to supply the different materials. Okay, then with this we are now able to complete the P2P cycle. Then what next? So the next is one of the important topic that is known as a organizational structure. So let us say I will take an example of the one of the organization for our better understanding purpose. Let us say I will take a Reliance Group as a. So first of all, in SAP we have various modules, right? Like we have SAP Finance, then we have SAP Controlling, then we have SAP MM, SAP SD, etc. So let us say I want to implement the SAP for one of the company known as Reliance Group, right? So Reliance Group is the company they wanted to implement SAP in their group. So first of all, I need to define the organizational structure, right? Let us say a Reliance Group. How many lines of business a Reliance Group is having it? Within the company, how many manufacturing plants are there? And how many sales and distribution channels are there? Like that. So I need to define the organizational structure first as a consultant, right? I need to define the structure of the company, right? Based upon that structure only, I am going to configure the organizational structure within ASAP, right? So when it comes to a organizational structure, so organizational structure follows one hierarchy, right? So in the organizational structure, at the highest level of the hierarchy, finance related organizational elements will be coming into picture, right? So in the org structure, at the header level of the org structure, you will have a finance organizational elements, right? Finance organizational elements in the hierarchy 1. Then at the hierarchy 2, there will be a controlling module related organizational elements, org element. Then hierarchy 3, so at the level of hierarchy 3 we will have MM related organizational elements, SAP MM. Parallelly, you will have SAP WM and SAP sales and distribution, etc. So it is like a hierarchy. Means if you see a family hierarchy, right? So grandmother and grandfather will be there at the highest level, then followed by mother and father, then like that it will be continuing, right? Family hierarchy. In the same way, in SAP also, the organizational structure will follow one hierarchy. At the highest level of the hierarchy, we will have finance org elements, then followed by controlling, then followed by SAP MM and WM and SD parallelly. So within the finance related organizational elements, we will have so many individual elements as well, right? But so actually we are trying to learn SAP MM, but in SAP MM we have some organizational elements. If we concentrate on only SAP MM organizational elements, the org structure thoroughly, then we need to have some understanding on finance controlling, SD and WM organizational elements as well. Why? Because SAP is a integrated module. You will came across of all module related organizational elements whenever you are doing a transactions. So that is the reason I am trying to give you some understanding on each and every organizational elements related to other modules as well. So I will try to take an example of the Reliance group, right? So in SAP, the Reliance group will be created as a or will be treated as a company. So if somebody asked Reliance group, so I will be creating Reliance group as a company within ASAP. So company is the organizational element which I am creating for the Reliance group. So company is the finance module first level of organizational element. Within finance there are various organizational elements. The first organizational element in the finance module is company. So Reliance group I am creating as a company within the finance module. It is not organizational element. Then within the Reliance group, there are various lines of business, right? Like Reliance is into so many lines of businesses, right? So line one business. So line one business is, let us say, Reliance Oil and Gas Private Limited, right? Reliance Oil and Gas Private Limited, right? So this particular line of business I will be creating as a company code as an organizational element within a finance module. Company code 1. So company code is the second level of organizational element in finance module. Second org element in finance. So company code, the first level of organizational element in the finance is a company. Then the second level of organizational element in the finance module is company code. Right, so line one business is Reliance Oil and Gas. So I will be calling and creating this line one business as a company code 1. Then Reliance is also into various lines of business, right? They are not only into oil and gas, they are also into Reliance Geo, right? That is also second line of business, right? So I will be creating second line of business as a Reliance Jio Private Limited, right? So Reliance Jio Business, Jio Private Limited. So this is one line of business. Again, Reliance Retail Private Limited is right. So that is the third line of business. That is company code 3. This is line 3 business and Reliance Retail. So like that, Reliance is into various businesses. So every line of business I need to define as a company code, which is a second organizational element in finance module, right? So how I will come to know that all three company codes belongs to a company known as Reliance? I need to make some relationship between the company and the company code. That means Reliance Group is having a Reliance Oil and Gas Private Limited as a company code, then company code 2 as a Reliance Geo, and company code 3 as a Reliance Retail. Means as a consultant, first I need to study the org structure of the company and define like this, right? But these are finance related organizational elements. So in the real time projects, finance consultant will define these organizational elements. So in SAP, every organizational element will be identified with some numeric coding or alphanumeric coding or complete alphabetic coding, right? So the company Reliance Group is a four characteristic alphanumeric coding, right? So let us say I will define the Reliance Group as a with coding RE01. So means every organizational element in SAP should be given one alphanumeric coding, unique coding. Why? Because I will use those codes only whenever I am creating the transactional data in SAP. I will not use the naming conventions. Like you go to the bank, when you go to the bank, if I say myself, Mr. Babu, I came to bank to deposit the money, then what they will say? They will say, we don't want your name, you give your bank account number. If you give the bank account number, then they will simply withdraw or deposit the money into the bank account, right? Means they are giving one unique identification number to your bank account and they are tracking all the transactions against that particular number only or the code. In the same way, in SAP also, if I wanted to create the transactional data, I will use the codes instead of the Reliance Group or Reliance Geo, etc. For the company code Reliance Oil and Gas, I will give the coding as a four characteristic coding, that is RO01, Reliance Oil 01, and RJ01 and RR01. So I am giving the coding like this, but you can also give the coding like 1000, 1001, 1002. Anything is possible, right? So every organizational element, I need to define a separate coding over here. Let us say these are the codes which I have defined over here. Why? Because I will use these codes only whenever I am doing the transactions. Like if I am creating the PO, let us say I am creating the PO here, right? See here, company code somebody created the company code 3000, so they mentioned the company code only. They did not enter the best run like that, right? So everywhere I will be using the coding only. So here vendor, somebody created the vendor as a 100588. So they have used this particular coding only whenever they are doing the transactions. Let us say I'm trying to create a PO. I will use the coding only everywhere. I will not enter the naming convention. Let us say I'm creating the PO. So I want to create the PO for the vendor 100588. This is the vendor code that is being assigned to a Hero Honda company. Purchase organization, I will enter as 3000. Purchasing group, company code, and material also. I will not enter the material description. Instead, I will enter the material code. Plant also I will enter as 3000. Like that. So every organizational element will have a 4 characteristic or the 6 characteristic alphanumeric coding. So we need to define the coding accordingly and use those codes within the SAP after creating them as a configuration. 1 minute. Right? So these are the two main organizational elements within a SAP finance module. Right? So the finance related organizational elements will be coming first in the SAP. Why? Because as a SAP I have a dependency on the finance related organizational elements. I cannot execute a project without having finance org elements. That is the reason we need to define the finance related organizational elements first, then controlling, then followed by SAP Right? So are you able to follow what I am trying to explain it over here?
Yes, sir.
Right? Means let us say I am the consultant. I deployed into a project, right? So what is the first and foremost activity I have to do it? I need to study the structure of the company, right? Let us say I went to implement SAP for the Reliance group. So I need to first identify or study the structure of the company. How many departments are there, right? And how many manufacturing locations are there? And how many head offices are there? So that identification of each and every organizational element is the first and foremost thing which we need to define. Once we have defined and identified all these organizational elements, then we will configure this particular structure within the SAP, right? But we will create only related organizational element. But for your better understanding purpose, I am trying to give you the overview of the other organizational elements as well in the org structure, right? So then apart from this, we also have some of the other organizational elements in SAP Finance module. What are those organizational elements? Let me see. If I go to the configuration screen, then if I go to the enterprise structure is the first and foremost thing, right? So if I go to the in the finance module, we have defined the company, right? That is RE01. Then we also defined the company codes. We defined three company codes for three lines of business. Then we have the credit control area. So this is also one of the organizational elements which we need to define within the finance module, right? So Credit control area is also a four characteristic alphanumeric coding. So you can define one code as, let us say 1000 is the code which I am using to identify the credit control area. Then we have business area. Business area also one of the finance organizational element. So I will be defining this as BU10 as a coding. Then functional area, right? I am just giving you some overview for finance organizational element. I am not going into details. Why? Because these are not the SAP MM consultant responsibility. These will be created by finance consultant, but we will get into the in-depth details of SAP MM org elements, which we are going to discuss soon. Right? So we have a consolidation business area, that is CB10. I can define the coding like 1000 or 10,000, etc. No, only four characteristic. I can define 1000, 1001, etc. But I am giving CB10 for better understanding purpose. Right? Then we have the financial management area. This is also finance organizational element. I will give the coding as FM10. Then segment. I will define the segments like in my Reliance group. I am producing, I am doing the oil business, right? Let us say within the oil I have petrol. So petrol is, all petroleum products are coming under one segment that is known as petroleum segment, that is PE01. All diesel products are coming under diesel segment DE01. All kerosene products, right, will be coming under a kerosene segment. Means based upon the products which I am producing in my company, I will be dividing them into various segments. Petroleum products are petroleum segment. Diesel product are falling under diesel segment. Kerosene products are falling under kerosene segment. So segment also a finance related organizational element. Then we have a profit center, right? So in my company, I have various departments. Let us say HRD department is profit center 1. Production department, I will be defining them as a profit center 2. Why I am defining the every department as a profit center? Because I wanted to see what exactly the expenditure that I have done against each and every department, and what is the benefit which I am getting out of it. Am I getting loss or am I getting profit? So I wanted to see such type of calculations in each and every department. So I need to define each and every department as a profit center, as the finance related organizational element. Right. So if you want to go through what exactly the meaning of a company, what is company code, what is a credit control area, once you have the access to SAP system, if you click on this particular activity documentation, so here you will see some text or the information related to each and every organizational element. If you go through that, you will be able to understand what exactly the meaning of a company. A company is an organizational unit in accounting which represents a business organization according to the requirements of commercial law in a particular country. Means if you are doing a business in any of the country, so you need to register that particular business as a company in terms of legal requirement, right? So that is the purpose why you are defining a company for a particular group reliance over here. Like Tata Group, you also need to define as a company, right? Like that, every company who is doing a business, they need to register the company for the legal transactional purpose within a company, within a country, right? But these are SAP finance related organizational elements. So in the real time projects, a finance consultant will define and configure these organizational elements, but I am just trying to give you some understanding of these finance related organizational elements as well. Why? Because you will be hearing company code, company, all those things whenever you are doing a transactional data, right? So we will stop it over here today and we will continue tomorrow for the rest of the organizational elements defining. Once we have defined the organizational elements, we will configure them within a SAP module, right? So are you able to follow it or do you have any doubts? Why I am defining the org structure? Because every project will have the company. Within the company you need to identify what and all the organizational elements we are going to perform the transactions within SAP, right? Any doubts or clarifications do you have? Hello, are you there in the call? Suresh, Venkatesh, Prasad, Akash, are you able to follow or any doubts? Vanita garu, any doubts?
No, sir, no, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you understood, right? Why the org structure needs to be created?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the requirement is, let us say you deployed into one of the SAP project, right? Let us say Tata Group is planning to implement a project. So first we need to understand Tata Group is having how many manufacturing locations, how many companies they have, how many company codes they have. Everything we need to understand, right? We need to understand, and based upon the physical structure of the company, we need to create a skeleton which is known as a organizational structure. Within the organizational structure there will be various organizational elements, and those elements will be used in doing the transactions within SAP modules. We will see, no need to worry. Once we have completed the organizational structure configuration, you will be able to understand clearly. Okay, then we will stop it here today and we will meet tomorrow. Thanks a lot for joining the call. Good night.
Sir, when we get access, sir?
Access,
Sir,
ఇది ఆర్గనైజేషన్ స్ట్రక్చర్ డిఫైన్ చేసి సిస్టంలో కాన్ఫిగర్ చేస్తాను మొదలు పెట్టినప్పుడు యూ విల్ గెట్ ద యాక్సెస్. I think within 1 or 2 classes you will get the access.
oh,
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay then. Thanks
thank
for
you, sir.
joining the call. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.